No one noticed the silence at first, but it spread fast. The line of passengers froze as a uniformed security officer stepped directly into the woman's path, raising a hand inches from her chest. "You're not authorized to enter the cockpit," he said sharply. The woman stopped mid-stride. She wore a crisp white pilot shirt, 4 gold stripes on her shoulders, her ID clipped neatly to her waist. Calm, composed, professional, but the room didn't see a captain. They saw a black woman standing where they didn't expect her. "Before we dive in, which country are you watching from? Comment below and don't forget to subscribe for more true stories." The airport terminal buzzed with its usual rhythm just moments earlier. Rolling suitcases, boarding announcements echoing overhead, coffee cups clinking, flight crews moving with quiet urgency. This was Captain Maya Reynolds' normal world. She had flown for this airline for 12 years, over 9,000 flight hours, 0 incidents, trained on 3 aircraft types, respected by crews who knew her name, and ignored by people who didn't. Today was supposed to be routine, a domestic flight, full cabin, slight delay due to weather. Nothing unusual. Maya had arrived early, like always, reviewed the weather brief, checked maintenance logs, noted a minor write-up from the previous leg that had already been signed off. She moved through the terminal with the confidence of someone who belonged there, until she didn't. The security officer's voice had cut through the noise like a blade. Heads turned. A few passengers stared openly now. Others pretended not to watch. Maya felt that familiar tightening in her chest, the one she hated acknowledging. Not fear, recognition. She calmly reached for her badge. "I'm the captain of this flight," she said evenly. The officer didn't even glance at it. "I'll need you to step aside." And just like that, the calm before the storm disappeared. The line behind her stalled completely. A ripple of irritation moved through passengers as rolling suitcases bumped into ankles and boarding passes fluttered uselessly in hands. Someone sighed loudly. Another muttered about missing connection. Maya didn't move. A flight attendant leaned out from the jet bridge, her voice low, cautious. "Is everything okay here?" No one answered her. The security officer shifted his stance, deliberately widening it, his body now blocking the narrow corridor that led straight to the aircraft door. His hand hovered near his radio, thumb brushing the button like a warning. "I've already told you," he said, louder this time, projecting authority for the people watching. "Crew access only." Maya took a breath. Slowly, the way she had been trained to do at 30,000 feet when alarm screamed and seconds mattered. She held her badge out again, closer now, almost touching his chest. Her photo, her name, her rank, Captain M. Reynolds. 4 stripes, clear as day. "This is crew access," she said evenly. The officer glanced at the badge, not long enough to read it, just long enough to decide he didn't believe it. "Where did you get this?" he asked. The question landed like a slap. For a fraction of a second, the terminal went quiet. Then the air shifted. A murmur spread through the line. Someone scoffed. Another passenger tilted their phone slightly, pretending to scroll while the camera lens pointed directly at Maya. Maya felt her jaw tighten. She refused to let her voice follow. "That ID was issued by the airline you're currently working for," she said. "You can verify it in under 30 seconds. The officer shook his head slowly, the way people do when they've already made up their mind. "I'm going to need verification," he said. "Step aside." 2 more security staff approached from behind him. One of them, younger, less certain, glanced at Maya's uniform, then at the stripes on her sleeve, then back at the officer. His brow furrowed. He said nothing. That silence cut deeper than the accusation. The gate agent stood frozen behind the counter, fingers twisting a stack of boarding documents. She avoided Maya's eyes entirely, staring instead at her computer screen as if the answer might appear there and save her from choosing a side. Minutes dragged on. Boarding was fully halted now. The jet bridge door remained open, aircraft crew watching from a distance, uncertain. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead. Maya could feel every stare on her back. Curious, judgmental, some sympathetic. Some nut. She stood perfectly still, humiliated in a place she had earned through years of discipline, exams, and nights spent studying while others slept. Finally, she spoke again, quieter this time, but firmer. "Please call operations," she said, "or the chief pilot." The officer exhaled sharply, irritated. "We'll do that. Until then, you're not entering that aircraft." Then he added, casually, almost dismissively, "We've had issues with impersonation before." Impersonation. Heat flared behind Maya's eyes, not tears, but fury, because she knew what this really was. And so did everyone watching. Operations picked up the call. The change was immediate. The gate agent straightened, then stiffened, as if the voice on the other end had physically struck her. Her fingers tightened around the phone. She turned slightly away from the counter, but not enough to hide her reaction. Yes, she's here," she said, lowering her voice. "Uniform. 4 stripes." Maya watched her carefully. A long pause followed. The agent nodded once, then again, swallowing hard. "Yes, I understand." She glanced toward the aircraft, then back at Maya, eyes wide now, uneasy, afraid. Then, louder, unable to master tension anymore. "You want us to hold the flight." A wave of sound rippled through the waiting area. Passengers leaned forward. Someone whispered, "Hold the flight?" The officer frowned. "What's going on?" he asked, irritation creeping into his voice. The agent covered the receiver with her hand, her voice trembling. "They're asking Captain Reynolds not to board yet." Maya felt the words settle in her chest. "Why?" she asked calmly. The agent hesitated. Everyone could see it, the way she searched for permission to speak the truth. Another pause, then, barely above a whisper, "Because the aircraft hasn't been cleared." The terminal suddenly felt smaller, tighter, like the walls had moved in. Maya's mind raced. That maintenance note, the one she flagged mentally but hadn't yet verified. The pressurization sensor that had been signed off unusually fast. Her stomach dropped. She stepped closer to the counter. What wasn't cleared? The agent's eyes flicked to the officer, then back to Maya. "A pressurization sensor fault," she admitted. "Maintenance closed it, but operations says the testing documentation doesn't match." Murmurs grew louder now. "Pressurization. Is that dangerous? Why are we boarding then?" Maya turned slowly toward the officer. "You stopped me from entering the cockpit," she said, each word deliberate. "But you may have just stopped 164 people from flying on an unsafe aircraft." For the first time, the officer didn't interrupt. His confidence faltered. Just a fraction. Maya pulled her phone from her pocket. One number. Memorized years ago. The FAA duty inspector. Her thumb hovered for half a second, not out of fear, but out of gravity. This was no longer routine. This was escalation. She made the call. Her voice stayed steady, even as her hands trembled. She explained everything. The denial at the gate, the halted boarding, the unresolved maintenance discrepancy. She didn't exaggerate. She didn't accuse. She stated facts. There was silence on the other end, long enough for the terminal to feel breathless. Then the voice returned, firm and unmistakably serious. "Captain Reynolds, do not board that aircraft. We are initiating an immediate inspection." The officer's radio crackled to life almost instantly. The gate agent gasped, her free hand flying to her mouth. Boarding screen flickered. The word delayed appeared. Passengers erupted into questions. What does that mean? Is the plane safe? Why was she stopped in the first place? Maya met the officer's eyes. This wasn't about a badge anymore, or respect, or humiliation. This was about safety. And the truth had just taken control. The FAA arrived faster than anyone expected. 2 inspectors in dark jackets stepped through the terminal with purpose, badges already visible, eyes scanning until they locked onto Maya. They didn't hesitate. They didn't stop to ask questions. They walked straight past security. "Captain Reynolds?" one of them asked. "Yes," Maya replied. They shook her hand, firmly, respectfully, right there at the gate. The effect was immediate. The officer who had blocked her path earlier took an unconscious step backward. His shoulders stiffened. The authority he'd been projecting moments ago drained from his posture. Passengers noticed. Phones rose openly now. No pretense. No subtlety. The inspectors turned to the gate agent. Which aircraft? The agent pointed shakily toward the jet bridge. Flight 782. Boarding status. Suspended. Good. Without another word, the inspectors headed down the jet bridge. The door closed behind them with a dull, final thud. Silence hung over the gate. Minutes stretched. The digital clock above the counter ticked loudly, each second magnified. Passengers shifted, murmuring, speculating. Maintenance staff appeared near the aircraft door, faces tight. One of them spoke quickly into a phone, pacing. Maya stood apart from the crowd now, not isolated, but centered, calm, watching. The officer hovered nearby, saying nothing. His radio crackled several times. He didn't answer. 20 minutes later, the jet bridge door opened again. The inspectors stepped out. Their expressions told the story before any words were spoken. The lead inspector walked straight to the counter. This aircraft is grounded. A collective gasp swept through the terminal. The gate agent froze. Grounded? Yes. The inspector continued, voice carrying. A pressurization sensor fault was signed off without proper testing. Maintenance falsified the clearance. The airline is in violation of federal safety regulations. The words hit like a shockwave. Passengers reacted all at once. Frustration, fear, anger colliding in the air. Falsified. So it wasn't safe. We were about to board. The inspector turned slightly, acknowledging the crowd. No aircraft will depart until it meets every safety requirement. Then he turned back to Maya. If Captain Reynolds had been allowed to proceed with her pre-flight duties, this issue likely would have been identified before boarding began. Maya nodded once. The officer swallowed. Grounded, he repeated quietly, as if trying to understand how the situation had flipped so completely. Maya finally spoke again. If I had been allowed to do my job, she said evenly, this wouldn't have escalated to this point. The inspector met her eyes. Instead, you were detained. Cameras zoomed in. A man in a suit hurried toward the gate, sweat darkening his collar. The airline station manager. He extended a hand, then awkwardly lowered it. We sincerely apologize, Captain, he said quickly. This should never have happened. Excuses followed. Process failures. Miscommunication. Maya didn't argue. She didn't interrupt. She didn't need to. The truth was standing right beside her, official, undeniable, and public, and there was no way to walk it back. The flight was officially canceled before sunset. Gate screens across the terminal updated one by one, the word canceled glowing in cold white letters. A low groan rolled through the crowd, followed by the familiar chaos of rebooking lines and hurried phone calls. But beneath the frustration, something else lingered. Relief. News traveled fast. By the time passengers were escorted away from the gate, whispers had turned into certainty. A faulty aircraft, a near miss, a captain who had been stopped, and a disaster that hadn't happened. An internal investigation was launched before the terminal even emptied. Maintenance staff involved in the falsified clearance was suspended pending review. The station manager was removed from duty that same evening. By morning, the airline was facing federal fines and mandatory safety audits across multiple hubs. And the security officer? He was reassigned, stripped of gate authority, pending disciplinary action. No announcement was made. No apology offered, just a quiet removal. But none of that was what stayed with Maya. As passengers were rebooked and tempers cooled, a woman approached her near the seating area. She hesitated, clutching her daughter's hand. The girl couldn't have been more than 8, her backpack nearly as big as she was. My daughter wants to be a pilot, the woman said softly. She watched what happened, how they treated you, and how you didn't back down. Maya knelt so she was eye level with the girl. Flying isn't just about planes, she said gently. It's about responsibility and courage. The girl nodded seriously. Then she already has what it takes, Maya added, smiling. Later that night, alone in a hotel room, the adrenaline finally faded. The silence pressed in. Maya sat on the edge of the bed, uniform draped over a chair, stripes catching the lamplight. Her hand shook now, not from fear, but from the weight of everything she'd held in. She replayed the moment at the gate. The doubt, the stays, the word impersonation echoing in her mind. She hadn't planned to expose anyone. She hadn't planned to stand in front of cameras. She had only planned to fly safely. And yet, being denied her place had put her exactly where she was needed. If she'd stepped aside, if she'd stayed quiet, if she'd chosen convenience over conviction, 164 people might have boarded that aircraft unaware. Maya looked out the hotel window at the blinking runway lights in the distance. Sometimes, safety isn't loud. Sometimes, leadership doesn't happen in the cockpit. Sometimes, grounding a plane is how you lift the truth. She exhaled slowly, finally at peace. Tomorrow, she would fly again. But tonight, she had already done her job. If you were in her place, what would you have done? Speak up or stay silent. Tell us in the comments, and subscribe for more powerful true stories.